Welcome to the first edition of SA Music Box. Our guest tonight is Neill Solomon, and we're going to delve into his music box to see which South African songs have influenced him the most. Well, it's that time of the evening now where we get to our special segment. It's called SA Music Box. And from tonight onwards, this will be a regular feature. My guest tonight is the legendary Neill Solomon. Neill is a singer-songwriter and producer who's been in the industry for many, many years. I've known him for 20, so I've invited him into the studio so we can unpack his music box. Hello, Neill.
How are you, Savannah? Great intro, thank you.
Thank you very much. I rehearsed it for about 5 minutes in the bathroom before I came here.
Awesome.
Neill, welcome. I mean, this is a great situation for you and I. We've always been on opposite sides of the desk, so to speak.
Yes, we have.
And this is the different guys. This is now on radio. And we've got a bunch of listeners out there who I'm sure are very keen to find out what Music Box is. So we're going to tell them and we're going to unpack yours.
Awesome.
So in this Music Box segment, we're going to talk about South African music and South African musicians, including your music.
Yes.
What's influenced you and what would sit in your box of treasures if we had to pick a lock on that box.
Okay, have you got 4 hours?
We've got 3, but we'll try and edit it in.
Okay.
It will take that long.
Well, maybe.
If you've been around long enough, I suppose, you probably know
exactly.
everyone, don't you?
Don't give away my age too much.
I won't give it away, but somewhere in the early 90s.
Let's keep it at that.
All right, Neill. I mean, you've been in the industry for a long time.
Yeah.
I recall as a kid listening to your music, from the Uptown Rhythm Dogs to the
Correct.
Passengers.
Yeah.
How many albums have you released in your time?
Look, not that many as Neill Solomon or with the bands that I had, but with overall with other artists and stuff, quite a few. I can't give you the exact figure, but strange enough, with the Uptown Rhythm Dogs, we only did one album, which we released in 1981 called The Occupant. And currently, Greg, Dan, and I have just gotten together because we've had so many requests over the years. When are the Uptown Rhythm Dogs getting together? Blah, blah, blah. So we, in fact, did a gig on Saturday night at the Radium Beer Hall as the Uptown Rhythm Dogs, which was really great. And we're sort of workshopping songs and stuff at the moment. So I think many years later, we may have the follow-up album. So
yeah, well, it's never too late. You know, the Eagles got back together after a long time and recorded.
Exactly.
So did Crowded House recently.
So that's the plan.
That's wonderful. I mean, in that time, your music has spanned different decades.
Yeah.
What is the biggest difference from the time you started to this current decade of music?
It's really, I would say the difference is recording techniques have changed. But writing a song, for me, the essence of writing a song has remained the same, you know. So nothing's changed except recording techniques, and genres have changed, but more to do with the recording techniques. Would have just given you different accesses and stuff like that.
It's fast to do things now than it used
Exactly.
to be in the past.
Yeah.
Where you had to track tape.
Exactly, and it just seemed to take forever. And
well, I've had the privilege of being able to work with you over my last 2 albums, and I do recall you've been quite busy working on multiple things at the same time. You were busy with one special project which I know has just been released. What is it called? It's
called the Liberation Project. There was a true labor of love, I would say. So it's called Songs That Made Us Free. It's quite a broad thing, but it's freedom songs from Italy, Cuba, and South Africa. And many musicians from all over the world worked on it. So it was quite a thing, collating everything in the studio. So guys like Phil Manzanero from the band Roxy Music and Pink Floyd was one of the producers. It was myself, Dan Chaboli, whose idea it was. Dan came up with this idea when he was in Italy. And Phil Manzanero, the 3 of us produced it. But there were people from Cuba, there were musicians from Italy. So that's out. It's on all digital platforms, and it's a very interesting and eclectic piece of work.
It's a lovely word to use for Sunday, eclectic.
Eclectic.
Sunday becomes eclectic.
Exactly. So 37 songs on that album.
Well, very keen to listen to it, and I'm sure we'll hear more about that project as we go on.
Yeah.
Who are some of the other South African musicians that are featured on that particular project now?
Oh, many, including legends like Sipho Hot Sticks, Mabusa, and Moritz Lotz played a huge part in it, the great guitarist.
Legendary.
The
Moritz
legendary Moritz Lotz. He produced and arranged most of the album. So it's to him. I think it's a great album.
Now that for me is an interesting mix because I know Moritz's production. He comes from a compositional background where he loves big soundtracks and epic sounds.
Yeah.
I know you as a producer. That must have been a really interesting way to work with somebody where you were not the producer and he was.
It was interesting because when I do, say, movie soundtracks and television music and that, I'm the producer and I know what the end result is going to be. But it was really nice for us to let go and leave it to Moritz and say to him kind of, this is sort of the direction we want, but let's see what you do with it. And every single song that came out, we loved what he had done. So
you loved his interpretation.
Absolutely. He just got it, and
that is the essence of collaboration, right?
Absolutely.
Is being able to find the magic in each other's music and in each other's talent.
Yeah, and understanding it.
Now, fantastic. I just wish more, and I hope that more South African artists would look at collaborations, even if it's cross-genre. The opportunity to delve into somebody else's creative mind is magic.
It is, and it's great when you see, say, a rapper working with an acoustic guitarist or acoustic artist or songwriter, and what comes out of it. I think that's the way the music is going, and should be.
Fantastic. Come to that point where you get to pick your first song in your music box, and the song I want you to pick, Neill, of everything you've done in your glittering career, which song would you choose as the quintessential Neill Solomon track?
As a songwriter, are you saying?
As a songwriter, musician.
Oh, it's hard, but I would say the title track of the Uptown Rhythm Dogs album, The Occupant.
Ah, nice.
I think that's lyrically, musically kind of puts it all together.
And there you have it, folks. If you're listening at home on this wonderful evening, this is The Occupant by the Uptown Rhythm Dogs and Neill Solomon.
She smiled as
Right, Neill, you've worked with many artists of your time, including myself, and present company excluded, I would say. Who's the most naturally talented person you have ever worked with?
Yo, that's not a fair question.
I know, but you know what? This particular interview is very unfair.
Yo, I've worked with so many naturally talented people. It really is a tricky one. I mean, Moritz off the top of my head would be one of the top three,
Yeah,
you know.
sure, yeah.
Sure.
I could have picked a worse question. I could have asked you who's the least naturally talented person.
Okay,
But that'd be
okay,
easier.
I'll tell you now.
Okay, so we can move on for that. That's fine, Neill. I think I sort of concur with you. I think Moritz Lotz is one of the most naturally talented people
Absolutely.
I have met.
Yeah.
I've got to work
Yeah.
with. We spoke about songwriting earlier. In your opinion, what do you think is the essence of a great song? What makes a great song a great song?
I would say in the kind of traditional sense of songwriting is it's really hard to write a story in 3 minutes if you're going that route. I mean, I'm not saying all genres need to do that because some are based on a chorus and a groove and a beat and stuff. But if it's in a traditional way, for example, in the 60s, there was a song called By the Time I Get to Phoenix by a songwriter called Jim Webb. I mean, he takes you on a journey through cities in 3 minutes. It's unbelievable. You know, you just, and I think that's the essence of a great song.
He obviously hasn't been to Phoenix and Durban.
He definitely
Because
has.
that journey alone would have
Unless
been
he
3
didn't
minutes.
tell us something and he ended up in Phoenix or he never got there.
Interesting, because obviously there's a lot of young people who are listening to the show
Yeah.
this evening, and the show is designed really to give people the inside track into the industry. I'm sure there are many people sitting out there who have hopes and dreams of becoming stars, rock stars, rap stars, whatever it is.
And that's
And
all you need is a dream.
Everyone's looking for that edge.
Yeah.
Songwriting happens to be one of those key components
Yeah.
that make stars stars.
Puts you a little step ahead.
So every possible piece of insight we can give them, we are certainly going to try and do it. And, you know, coming from somebody as experienced as you, who has worked on as many songs as you, you know, it's nice to get your opinion on that.
Thanks.
Now, another difficult question. Which South African song do you wish you wrote?
Again, it's a horrible question. There are a couple jumping straight out at me. I think I wish I'd written Weeping. And there was a songwriter who influenced me when I was at school. He was in a band called Freedom's Children, and his name was Ramsey Mackay. And to me, he's still the greatest songwriter to have ever come out of South Africa. And one of his songs, many of his songs from Freedom's Children's album, Astra, they were incredible songs, Tribal Fence and that. But when he went solo, he did a song called Silent Water. And to me, it's just an amazing, amazing song. So that's probably the one I wish I'd written.
So I can safely say that I've never heard that song before. But for whoever's listening this evening, this is Ramsey Mackay with
Silent Water.
Help me through
Okay, Neil. So, what do you think of the new generation of South African musicians?
I think there's some fantastic artists, and you know, there's always that thing people say. Older people will go, "Oh, there was only good music in the '60s or the '70s," which is absolute nonsense because in the '60s and '70s there was also really bad music. Every generation there's good music and there's bad music, and I think currently there's some really great South African artists writing good songs, good performers.
That's a very nice perspective on that, to say that, and I think it's true perspective too, that in every generation there was great music, and in every
And
generation there's
bad
probably
music.
bad music.
Yeah,
And it's a very relative thing. And
Yeah.
I kind of concur with you because over the generations I've picked up, I remember going to concerts in the 80s
yeah,
and 90s where amazing South African musicians played. And I think the quality of artists coming out in the modern generation, especially with access to production and production studios and being able to edit, there's just a mass of artists coming through with new sounds and interesting mixes, which I find fascinating in our modern environment. Of all that stuff coming out, is there any particular artist that you think is doing something so special that you can see them skyrocketing and they have the potential to just blow through the atmosphere?
You know, there are actually quite a few, and I'm really impressed with some of the hip hop artists that are happening at the moment. I think the hip hop scene seems to be what I've seen and know about it is really healthy. And also on the rock side, on the acoustic side, I heard an album recently by Sonny Fox, more blues rock kind of album
Yeah.
produced by Matthew Fink, which I think is really, really good. Oh, and quite a few people.
No one specific that you want to name?
Not really. I'm just think the scene is very nice and healthy at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. What's your thoughts on Jimmy Nevis?
I think he's a great singer. I don't know all his stuff, but what I've heard, I think he's a great singer.
Yeah, I mean, another great example of a wonderful songwriter in this country. In the last 5 years, what has been released by South African artists that you think is absolute magic,
Yo, my memory's not good. Hey.
and that our listeners tonight should be having a listen to? I mean,
Okay.
there's lots of songs.
There's so many artists.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I was thinking about. You and I did a song about 5 years ago called Day Trip,
Yes,
and
one of your great songs.
and we've worked together for probably the better part of 20 years.
Yeah,
And there was a great story behind that song, as you know. It was a song just after your brother's passing.
yeah,
Where you told me the story, and I
Yeah.
wrote that song.
yes,
And that's a great example of I'd had the chords and music set up, but I
Yeah.
had no idea what to write about
Yeah.
until that conversation happened.
and we had the conversation, and then you got me to do my Leonard Cohen voice.
Yeah, that song took me about 15 minutes to write. It took us about 5 years to record.
That's it.
Well,
Not all at the same time in the
Yes.
studio, but
yes, exactly. So if we get a chance, hopefully we can play that a bit later for our audience.
awesome.
But Neil, it was wonderful having you.
Great being here. Thank you.
But before we leave you, we have to pick a song. And you can choose any South African song by any South African musician as your last song to put in your music box. I heard you mention Bright Blue.
I think go with that one. I think it's a great song. It's a classic song
Well, there you go. You
with
may
the
have heard
right
this-
intentions.
Yes, with the right intentions,
Yeah.
exactly. You've heard it from Neil Solomon, and this is me, the Eskimo writer. This is SA Music Box, and this is Bright Blue Weeping. our guest.
Thank you, Savannah. Thank you for having me.
Now, obviously, we didn't get you all the way here just to have a conversation with me. While you are here, and in the next hour or so, we're going to have Neill Solomon do an Unplugged with us. And he'll get to pick some of the songs that he wants to share with you, our wonderful audience on SA Music Box tonight. And he'll tell us the story behind the song, now that we've spoken about songwriting.
Sure thing.
Cool. Okay, Neill, we'll see you a bit later. Cool. And there you have it, folks. That was Neill Solomon's SA Music Box. Next week, we'll have a new guest, and we'll unpack what's in their music box. And don't forget, you can catch us on social media, Facebook, YouTube especially, and you can get to watch this and share it with all your friends. We'll see you later.